that was okay.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
It's honestly nice, like just talking through what I think. Like I really enjoy trying to
Really?
understand my own thoughts and things better.
But young people, they don't
Yeah.
get such as information at all,
Yeah, if I helped anyone in any way, that would be incredible. I grew up an introvert. I didn't have a big circle of people that I was comfortable around. But I think I definitely, as time's gone on, have come to realize that you don't need a lot of people. You just need, Berkeley's tough. Always having something on, always behind in school, always trying to get better in sport. You're just
When you're learning,
you fit it in. You just about you try to schedule around. Like you have classes at crazy times. Like sometimes don't finish class until like 8 or 7, 8, and then go home, you eat, you try to study, and then you do it again.
it is cool among the student athletes or students to use the mental health support service.
I definitely think my generation and even people younger than me, mental health is becoming an even bigger thing than it's ever been before.
So hello guys, I'm Armin Arustamov, CEO and founder of Got It app. This is an internal dialogue mental health app which helps high performers like athletes, militaries, business leaders to overcome their mental challenges and win competitions, win in sports, in study, work, and life. And you can, by the way, download this in the AppStore, just searching Got It Live for free. And today we have a special guest, Erin Richardson, successful student athlete of one of the top university of the world, UC Berkeley, tennis player, participant of Wimbledon, and just beautiful woman, studying economics and participant in association of Berkeley Women in Business. Erin, nice to see you.
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me. Excited to talk to you today.
Thank you. So, and today we try to talk and discuss about mental health and mental performance in the student life, in the athlete's life, and in the new generation life. So you are 23, right?
21.
21, so young woman, so young. And you are a representative of new generation. And the first question, I would very curious, what do you think about the mental health state of new generation, connecting with such as a recent events of like wars, of COVID and social isolation, of economic crisis, etc.?
Yeah, I think definitely mental health is a huge thing in the young generation today. I think obviously with social media and everything, I think a lot of the issues that are happening in the world and a lot of stressful different events are just very much amplified these days. And I think when, especially at the moment and in recent years, there's been so much going on, but I think social media often portrays a lot of people in a perfect world, which when you then are going through struggles and having to deal with different things, you sometimes feel like you don't have other people that resonate, understand, because you're seeing this perfect life projected out. And I think definitely that's been a huge factor that's amplified a lot of mental health issues that already could have happened because of a lot of these events. So I definitely think my generation and even people younger than me, mental health is becoming an even bigger thing than it's ever been before.
On the 10 scale, how do you evaluate the mental state of young generation, which you see your peers, your opponents on the court?
It's hard to say for sure, because I guess I didn't get to see so much of it before, but I definitely think nowadays if 10 was really bad, I'd say so general you get a huge variety, and definitely a lot of people up at kind of 7 to 9, 10, like going through struggles. And a lot of the time the thing is you don't see those as well, which I think a lot of people kind of hide it and have to then go through it alone, which is definitely more challenging. I think it's for sure increasing in the number of issues that there are and kind of the intensity of them.
Gotcha. You play tennis in Division 1. It's the coolest division of ever, and very competitive. And the tennis in general is one of the most mentally challenging sports. So, what the top three mental health or mental performance challenges of student athletes, and especially in the tennis?
I mean, I would say the first one is just being able to cope with the amount of things and the expectations that you're put under on a day-to-day. I think being a student athlete, you're there to perform athletically at the highest level, but you're also a student and you're having to balance things and do things that a lot of students don't have to do, and you're a lot of the time expected to do them without any complaints, without any questioning, and without struggling almost. And I think it can definitely be unrealistic at times and overwhelming for so many people, which you see, and there's so many stories about the struggles that people go through. I think then also the expectation of performing under pressure, I think
It's the first,
mentally
right?
that's definitely something that I struggled a lot with my first 2 years.
Mhm.
And that is something that you don't necessarily come in expecting. Like I grew up playing internationally and competing at high level, but I came to college and I expected it to be the same, and it wasn't. And just handling that pressure of competing for a team, knowing you're not just out there for yourself, can, for some it can come naturally, and for others it's something you need to adjust to. And it's not really spoken about, but it can be very hard when you don't come in just naturally being able to do that. If you lose, you're not just losing for yourself, you're losing for others, and you're letting down other people. And I think that's definitely takes a big toll on a lot of people's mental health. And I think in college can be a big stress factor. I think then the third one, probably just that seeing, I think going back to social media again, I think seeing people effortlessly look like they're living their lives effortlessly. And I think that expectation and that social media sets to be perfect, to be able to kind of do everything, I think not just for athletes but for everyone these days, puts a lot of pressure on mental health to be able to just do everything without any challenge or suffering, like without having to talk to anyone about it, because everything's portrayed as being easy and able to do. And I think when you're struggling and thinking that you're kind of invalidated for having your struggle is definitely can bring in a lot of mental health issues and loneliness, and makes everything kind of harder and destroys motivation, I'm sure, for some people. Like I think that's also a big one.
How do you deal with this?
I think having open communication and knowing the network you can have around you and building that network is probably, I believe, the best way to deal with it. And I think it's really important to teach people that kind of communication and network and having that understanding is very important, which I think a lot of people go into college because they don't expect to have these problems. They don't understand that the network that you need and the resources and people that you need to get through these challenges when you do face them. So I think that's probably why a lot of people face challenges and go through these struggles, I think, because they don't build that network. They don't expect to necessarily have to deal with these things that they haven't dealt with before. But yeah, I think that's key for sure, the people around you and using those resources.
What could you advise to introverts when don't like to communicate a lot with people?
Yeah, I mean, I think I growing up, I would definitely say I was an introvert for sure. I think my advice for people, that don't like communicating is I still think it's really important to try give yourself an opportunity to talk in some way, which is why I think the Got It Life app kind of is perfect, because sometimes you don't want to go out of your way and you don't feel comfortable necessarily speaking to others about it, but the one person that's always going to be able to listen to you and you don't have to be judged by is yourself, which I think from my experience and using the app is actually the best the best way you can listen to yourself as the outsider, as the app intends. And I think that's definitely a resource that can really be used for those to help them talk about and verbalize what they're feeling without necessarily having to communicate and tell a lot of different people and go through that.
Yeah, we'll definitely discuss about the app a little bit later. But yeah, nice communication. Tell me, please, about the big competitions. You're a participant of Wimbledon. So how was it? What the toughest thing when you participate in the big competition?
I think just knowing that this is like you go into these competitions knowing this is what you've been working for, this moment. And I think definitely it can be challenging to go in with the right moment, with the right attitude of that it's great that this is the moment you've been working for, like as exciting as it being an exciting opportunity as opposed to this is it. If you don't perform here, then everything is wasted. And I think that's probably the hardest part about going into a big competition is that you set this pressure of yourself to do something outstanding, make the most of it, when by doing that can often be kind of what causes your downfall rather than going in, taking it as just being grateful for the opportunity, being excited to go out and do your thing. I think that definitely is like a fine line that a lot of people can for sure struggle with.
Interesting, interesting. And how do you usually deal with stress, depression, the lack of motivation? Because a lot of student athletes and athletes ask us about this.
I mean, stress is definitely a big one. I feel a lot of the time when I'm at school competing, feeling like I'm always under stress, always having things to do, I definitely think is one that I felt the most. So I'll speak about that. I think, I mean, for starters, I've had to definitely evolve and change and learn how to deal with that stress. And I think I'm better at it now than I definitely was when I first came. I think for me, I try to very much keep things in the perspective of what they are, like the stress I'm feeling in certain moments, trying to remember that in 5 days a week, the chances are it will be over, it will get through, especially with things like school. It's deadlines, you stress about them at the time, but trying not to make that every single part of my day and what I think about, because it's just a small part of what I'm doing. And I think for me, tennis actually has been a really great way as well of dealing with it, because when you're on the tennis court, there's no point thinking about the school deadline. I think trying to remember that there's nothing I can do about it when I'm not working on that work, and trying to make the most of the time I have to be separate from that. And I think understanding that school or whatever is stressing me doesn't have to affect every other part of my life. I can still make the most of the day in many other ways, I think has been a way that's definitely helped me kind of keep that stress at bay a little bit.
Interesting. So in the same moment, you can use the sport like the way of reducing the stress and the way to increasing the stress because competitions. So
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I think definitely it all depends on your kind of circumstance and how that sport is going for you at the time. I think there's so many ups and downs that, like, competition is like training, it's easier to sometimes use it as a de-stressor, but then competition, it's a different story. They're like two different scenarios. So I think, yeah, it's definitely dependent on what kind of circumstance it is as well.
How do you motivate yourself? Or
I think
do you ever lose your motivation? And how do you get it back?
I think I motivate myself. I mean, I'm pretty ambitious. I have goals. I set goals for myself. I think that keeps me pretty motivated. Like I'm doing day to day something I'm passionate about, something that I love. And I think keeping reminding myself why I'm doing it, what I'm working towards, I think that's the most important thing. And staying motivated, remembering what it is I need to do to get where I want to be, I think. But I mean, I definitely still go through dips of motivation at the same time. I think most of the time they come when I do lose sight of those goals, I think. So I think for me, it's been important to be clear in why I'm working towards what I'm doing, and remembering just the benefits that it brings me, and appreciating those moments, like remembering that I don't get to do this forever, and that I'm very lucky to be able to get to do what I do and work hard and have things that I'm passionate about. So in those moments of not being so motivated, just trying to put into perspective probably what I go through and why I kind of do what I do in hard moments.
Do you have a special tools, ways, or techniques to motivate yourself after defeats?
I think honestly, a lot of the time after defeats, I feel like I almost get this like surge of initial motivation where I'm like, I don't want to feel this feeling again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out and work harder because I hate to lose. I just absolutely hate it. So a lot of the time motivation kind of comes naturally from defeat for me because I hate it. And I think that's one thing college has sort of helped with, is that because you feel like you're losing for your team as well as yourself, it's even stronger, the feeling of I don't want to have this feeling again. I want to, like, I'm on a team of girls that I love and that I want to win with, and I want to play my role in doing that. So I think most of the time it comes pretty naturally to me, which is good. Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. Let's talk about mental health and performance support. Uh, do you get such as a support, or your peers do get such as a support in university or in different services?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are like resources, and they do kind of advertise different resources and people available to talk to and things, but I think it's definitely, you have to go out and seek them yourself, which I think can be sometimes a challenge, because I think people sometimes don't necessarily even realize kind of what they're going through, or they feel potentially embarrassed to accept it or actually acknowledge it, which is what I think is a pretty big challenge, because you're on a team with these however many people, I mean up to 60 on some teams, and sometimes it can be difficult to accept and acknowledge that you're going through mental health problems in a difficult time. So I think definitely there are resources, but yeah, it can be challenging to go and actually kind of optimize them sometimes.
So if I'm student of UC Berkeley, for example, student athlete, can I use like personal consultations of group sessions there? And how?
Yeah, I think, yeah, there's definitely people you can talk to, and you can, have appointments to talk to different people. And we have different kind of events sometimes that advocate for mental health and the resources, which is definitely, great to have available. But yeah, I think a big one as well is the team around you. If you feel comfortable opening up to them, I think often they can be the biggest kind of resource, because you sometimes don't even understand how much other people are feeling the same way as you until you kind of open up and speak to them.
Mhm. How accessible and stigmatized this service?
I
So
think
how often I can use it as a student?
I think as hopefully, or at least I hope, it's as much as you like. And I don't think there's necessarily a stigma. I think it's a pretty private kind of thing for you to go and have a consultation. So I'd hope that there isn't necessarily a stigma. I think these days people are, I think, much more accepting of acknowledging that mental health is something that a lot of people are going through. I think at Berkeley there's a lot of people that come to college and struggle. Like, it's a tough institution. It's known for having like challenging classes. Sports are challenging. I think there's a pretty clear acknowledgement that Berkeley is tough, and so I think that definitely helps probably destigmatize people going for mental health support and speaking to people. At least I hope.
It is cool among the student athletes or students to use the mental health support service.
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's cool as the perspective we go for, but I think it's like, I think people would understand why someone would go out and like look for mental health services and speak to someone. I think I'm sure the broader community would, I like to think, be able to understand why that would be something that someone goes out and does, because at the end of everyone has challenges. I mean, that's at least my perspective, is that it's completely completely fair, completely valid that someone needs some support. I mean, I think at stages everyone would benefit from mental health services. So
Interesting. Erin, what do you are from England, UK? So, what can you say about mental health and mental performance service in Europe, especially in UK and in the United States? What the difference?
I mean, it's hard to say completely because my experience in the US is obviously in a very set university kind of system. I think honestly in the UK I've never really used much mental health services available. I think
Oh, really?
there are, pardon?
Oh, really? I see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's advocated for. I've spoken to different people in my life when I've been going through something challenging. Like I've spoken to friends, family, people that I trust and that I feel will give me advice in the situation. But in terms of kind of nationwide public services, I've never really optimized things. I mean, you hear there's like phone lines you can call and people you can talk to, but yeah, as for much else, I don't have much personal experience.
I think that in UK and in UK, people try to overcome such as the problems in the family and the friends,
Hmm.
comparing the US. No.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a much more intimate thing in like Europe. In definitely, I feel like I was raised more in an individual way of like your problems, you solve them, you move on. Like whereas in the US, I feel like there's a lot more like not necessarily accountability, but there's more you talk to other people, you find ways for other people to solve your problems kind of thing. Whereas
Hmm.
I think in Europe it's more of a perspective of, yeah, if you have something, you kind of solve it for yourself. At least maybe that's just my experience. I can't speak for everyone, but
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what I would say.
What do you think about mental health apps? Let's talk about this weird combination between psychology, technology, education, and sports.
Hmm.
So, what do you think about the mental health and mental performance apps? How can they help athletes and students uh, comparing with traditional mental health service?
Yeah, I mean, I think mental health apps definitely, like, if done in the right way, can have a lot of potential. But I think it's definitely hard. Like, each person is for starters different, and different things like work differently for different people. Like, I've used different techniques on court for my performance and to help myself mentally that worked for me and probably won't work for others, and the same vice versa. And I think it's the same with apps that certain things work for different people. So it can be for sure challenging, I would say, to find necessarily the right thing for you. And also there's the aspect of having to, like a lot of the apps with being subscription based, you have to kind of make that decision pretty quickly if you think it will work for you, and that can sometimes be difficult. I think as well it's very important that to make the most out of mental health apps that you completely buy into the process. It's, a lot of the time people these days get an app and want in the first 5 minutes to get the benefits and things, and it's like with mental health you have to, it's like a process and you can't just get all your solutions fixed and sorted in the first 5 minutes. You have to buy into the process and buy into the fact it's going to take time to overcome things. And I think that can be a challenge. But yeah, if people are able to commit to that, I definitely think it can be a very valuable resource for sure.
Mhm. What would you get like a top three feature mental health apps comparing with traditional mental health and performance service?
And so the best benefits of
Yeah,
the app,
yeah, like a two, three top
I
benefits.
think for starters, just that accessibility at any time. Like people these days always have their phone with an app. You don't have to plan, you don't have to prepare, you don't have to dial in a number and call someone and hope they answer. It's the information is right there whenever you need it. You go on your app. I think that's definitely a huge benefit. Then I think just it all being kind of set right in front of you. I guess it's sometimes easier to be open with yourself in an app where you don't have to feel like you'll potentially be judged or something, and it can be a good stepping stone to sort of then going on and speaking to someone else about what you're going through once you're able to potentially use an app and process things in an app, I think. And then third, I think it can just have you can get access to a lot of information, and that can sometimes you maybe don't truly understand what it is you're going through, and I think with people you have to explain to them, whereas an app can give you a lot of information probably beforehand that can almost help you understand without having to like explain it and already know what you're going through in a way.
Yeah, gotcha. Interesting. Um, yeah, could you share a little bit about the Got It app, our app? So, did you use it, right?
I've been using
Could you
it.
share your personal experience? How do you like it? About everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time I've used an app like Got It, like that. I've never used something similar to that before, and obviously, yeah, it's an internal dialogue app where you kind of get to ask questions to yourself and answers to yourself, but almost as a third person, which I think for me was super like kind of eye-opening, and it definitely changed the way I sort of perceived the things I was talking about. I think if you like, I've had different lengths of conversations and dialogues with myself, and I think listening back is definitely very, yeah, like insightful, and it's helped me kind of process different things and understand why I feel a certain way. And because you get each little question kind of opens the door a little bit further each time, it's nice to kind of listen to that as an outsider once you're done and understand why it is you're feeling what you're feeling. And I feel like you just get a better understanding and able to process things better. And I think for me, that's a big part of sort of working through problems, is understanding and processing what it actually is. And I think the app definitely really helps you like straight away understand and kind of validate what you're feeling, because you listen to it as like a conversation with two people, and that definitely changes the perspective a little bit.
Nice, cool. Could you explain how it works, like to people who never use it?
Yeah, so it's, as I said before, an internal dialogue. So you start with selecting kind of a category that is most troubling to you right now and which you're having problems with. And from there, you are asked to say what the most challenging problem is, what's stressing you, worrying you right now. And you then, that's you as the mentee when you say that. And then you have the other side where you have a mentor. So you'll state your problem, then you'll listen back to that problem in a different voice. And then as a mentor, you'll ask a question related to that. And if you're struggling with questions, there's tips at the bottom and you can get advice on what to ask. And then you ask your question and then become the mentee again, listen back to that question and then answer it. And then that process kind of continues until you kind of feel comfortable stopping. And as you go, you can add insights that you may be noticing or realizing as you go along, and steps that you want to then act on or commit to with that insight. And then, yeah, once you're done, you can go back and listen to the whole conversation as one go, and in different people's voices to your own. And yeah, it just kind of really helps you see your hear your problems in a different way, and break down each kind of step of why you're feeling what you're feeling, who can help you, how you can deal with it, how you can move on. I think, yeah, you get to listen to each kind of step and evolution of that at the end.
Was it nice? What the top benefits of this app? Like see on the problem from the different way, distance from oneself, insights, role-playing game, changed voice. What the top benefit from you from this app?
I think for me, it was kind of being able to, hear what I was feeling, but as an outsider, distancing myself from it. I think a lot of the time it's like people often maybe going through issues, but they can still give advice to their friends going through things, even though you're still going through things. Like when it's your own self, you kind of perceive things differently. And I think the coolest part for me and what brought me the most like comfort and sort of understanding was listening back at the end to the entire conversation I kind of had with myself, and realizing, because if you're being completely honest with yourself, it's like pretty eye-opening, and you get to increasingly understand what you're going through and figure out solutions as you go step by step, which is a lot easier to kind of understand everything than if you just try and straight away attack and finding a solution. So I think definitely then listening back as an outsider and hearing it broken down was for sure the part I found the most beneficial.
Nice, interesting.
As an athlete in sport, I think it can be very helpful in, say you're going through a challenging time with balancing things or performing or anything. I think it can allow you to step back and understand why this is happening, why you may be feeling it, what are the big factors that are playing a role. I think pretty much on almost any kind of feeling you're having, I think you can better understand and process from this app, I would say.
And what do you think, what type of people is best suited for Got It app?
I think people just willing to solve their problems, and people that are able to accept when that something's going on and that they want to be happy or want to get better. I think it doesn't have to be a set group of people. I think it can help anyone in a lot of circumstances. I think being able to have that dialogue with yourself and listen to it can, like I said, solve and support and help you improve so many different issues. I think as long as you're kind of willing to, like I said earlier, buy into the app, buy into the process, then I think that's kind of the most important part of getting the most out of the app, I would say.
What do you think, how often the athlete or student can use this app? Every day or one time per week? Or
I think to get the most benefit, I think it's helpful to go back to the app consistently. Like I would say probably a few times a week or even daily. And if you have free time and you want to just go through something that's happening, like whenever you feel like there's something that is causing you different feelings and emotions that is having a toll on your mental health, I think it can be as almost frequently or infrequently as kind of you need. But I definitely think having a consistent routine of optimizing it and buying into that process of when there's something you feel like you're struggling with, going to the app, I think is definitely the most important thing. And I guess, I found for me, I feel like using it kind of in the evenings or daily or sometimes, just a few times a week is the best to help continuously process and understand what I'm feeling and get to know myself better, I think, probably.
Comparing this app with meditation apps, which like a Calm and Headspace, all these guys give people like a ready-made solution, like some content, meditation content, like a psychological content. But our app doesn't give any ready-made solution. And you have to create the questions. And it's not comfortable because you have to thinking, and thinking is not comfortable. How do you deal with this? And
I mean, I think that's a big factor that sets the app apart, that will help it provide a lot more benefit than having solutions kind of thrown in front of you. Like you have to figure out your own solution by asking those questions, thinking more than you probably feel comfortable doing, and making things difficult and being honest with yourself. I think that's the great part about the app, is that you're the person that has to solve it. And a lot of things that in life in general, and you go through, the only way to move forward and progress is when you're the one actively engaged in solving an issue. And I think it's the same with the app. When you're the one that's able to come up with a solution that helps whatever you're going through, I think that's a lot more powerful than someone giving a generic answer and solution that they've told everyone else that's used the app before them. So yeah, I think that's the best part about the app, really.
Could you give some special advice or maybe techniques or exercises to young people like you are who struggling of mental health issues or mental performance, who want to succeed, who want to win competitions, but they can't because of this? What would you advise them?
I think I think, as I started with earlier, communication is definitely something that has been very beneficial for me, confiding in those that you trust and that you trust that have your best interests at heart, I think can be something that's definitely will like take you a long way and can really just help you understand. I think it's very important that to process and understand how you're feeling in order to move forward. And I think definitely talking to others can be a big part of that. I think also just trying your best to acknowledge when you're doing your best. I think people a lot of these days expect sometimes quick fixes, and when you're going through something, you just want it to be over and you're not willing to necessarily go through the journey, go through the process. I think if you are going through different struggles, I think if you're each day doing your best, doing what you can do to make things better, help yourself, I think trusting that that's enough. And if you commit to it and you keep doing that day in, day out, like you will see the results and things will get better. I think just trusting that doing your best is all you need to do. Like you don't need to think that things have to be perfect in a minute, in a day. Like things are a process. We all go through challenges, and trusting that, yeah, as long as you're having the right intentions, that's all you should do, and you should be proud of yourself for kind of, yeah, committing to that. So I would kind of say.
Interesting. So you pay a lot of attention on communication. It's for sure important, but what do you think about the phrase, about the thought that happiness or mental comfort doesn't depend on amount of people around you? So it depends on quality of people or something
Mhm.
else.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. I think it's about you don't need a lot of people in the world. You just need the right people. And I think especially young people, you grow up seeing popular kids and you think like they've got it all. They have so many friends and this. And I've definitely come to learn that it really isn't about having lots and lots of people around you, because like I said, I grew up an introvert. I didn't have a big circle of people that I was comfortable around. But I think I've definitely, as time's gone on, have come to realize that you don't need a lot of people. You just need people, however many that you feel comfortable with, that you trust, that, yeah.
It's important maybe to find a balance, between the amount and quality, right?
Yeah, I think definitely finding your own kind of community is important, and finding your people that, yeah, you kind of connect with, that you understand, that sort of share values and that you enjoy being around. I think if you're able to do that, which I know is actually something that is spoken about at Berkeley being such a huge institution, that it can be difficult to find your community, and you feel, yeah, it can be overwhelming when surrounded by all these people, but you feel like there's no one that you necessarily feel close with. I think, yeah, that's for sure important, that you have a group that you genuinely can trust and confide in, as opposed to having lots of people that are kind of at surface level relationships with.
Gotcha. Interesting. Erin, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your thoughts. You are smart young woman, and I wish you all the best in your sports and professional career.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been, yeah, honestly great to just talk through everything that I think as well. And yeah, I hope I can kind of help others a little bit with what I'm saying. So
Cool,
yeah,
cool.
thank you.
Thank you. It was Erin Richardson, successful student athlete of UC Berkeley, tennis player, and Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.